Rishab wanted to go to Tamil at one point. And I was like, no, we have to work here.
So for some scene, Stanislavski will work. And then for some scenes, it is woefully inadequate. You need to go back and connect with your co-actor. And asking 9 intellectual questions is not going to help you.
In Kannada, we say hata, which is stubbornness that each of us had about wanting to do it in Kannada.
Kannada, yeah.
I don't want to leave Kannada and go to another industry and work. It's my language. It's mine.
Hemant, Rukmini, Rakshit, first of all, thank you for coming here. I'm so happy to have you at the Film Companion studio. Sapta Sagaradaache Ello Side A was one of my favorite films. If you guys haven't seen it, Amazon Prime Video is where you need to catch it. And of course, now Side B is coming. And I have to say I'm a little stressed, okay? Because if Manu and Priya don't find at least thoda sa happiness, I'm going to be deeply unhappy. I'm looking at you, Hemant. And it will all be your fault.
You're not the first to say this.
I'm telling you, at the end of the first, I was just broken. And I said, nahi yaar, kuch to khushi mile. Like something nice has to happen. We will not ask what happens because we cannot wait to see Side B.
No pressure.
No pressure. Exactly. No, just all our happiness depends on you. But anyway, Hemant, I want to start with you, right? You had this script in 2006. You wanted this to be your first film. It became your third and fourth film. But you said that actually helped because you're more mature. You brought a sort of wisdom to the characters and to the telling of this story. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what did you add? I know the story changed quite drastically, but in terms of the characters these two play, how did you change that? Because you're now older and wiser.
I think the most fundamental change is that I realized that there is a certain simplicity to relationships, where we don't often celebrate what is simple and nice in a relationship, and things that are very habitual, things that are very simple, like how somebody looks at you, and these are all things that we take for granted. And I think as you grow old, you sort of understand that there is a certain fundamental element to relationships with which is what holds everything together. It's those fundamentals that really matter. So I started developing a sense of what those fundamentals are for me, and then it gave me a better understanding of how to not make it, dramatic, because that is what I would have done as a earlier filmmaker, as an earlier writer. So I would have looked to add something or give them something to do. So it's taken me a while to sort of write a scene where I don't have to, the material doesn't have to, force the drama. Like the drama can be sort of, created within what is there. It can just be a simple conversation. It can be a simple conflict. It can be a simple misunderstanding or different point of views of looking at the same thing.
Because, one of the most magical things in the movie is the comfort that the two characters have instantly. We don't see the backstory or what, but when they meet, it actually reminded me a little of Gully Boy. When Alia's character and when Ranveer's character meet, it's already there. Like they've already connected. Right. There's a comfort. How do you create comfort?
we had 5 days of workshop, before we started shooting. I think that's even before we started shooting the film. I think he built that relationship right from there. And in the workshop, he made us, in the sense, like for example, he would tell Manu's and Priya's backstory, few incidents which he is not shot in the film. Yeah. Like for example, he would make us listen to music and, go into a world where only Manu and Priya are there, and what kind of environment they are in, where are they spending their time, things like that. And by the time we started shooting, we started with montages in the beginning, and I think he plans it that way, that he wants to see how Manu and Priya are going to how are they going to come across on screen finally. And he starts building what he's seeing. After that, he starts building. So the way he shot the film itself got us into that zone probably, which helped us a lot in bringing that comfort.
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
What about for you? I mean, how did you find the soul of this woman who's very, she's not like it's not just a one-note character. None of the characters were that one-note, superficial. She's like, there's so much happening inside of her, and I think the love story and the strength she brings to it is so critical in the success. How did you find the soul for that?
I think a lot of that goes down to Hemanth and his co-writer Gunnu Shetty. I genuinely do believe that when something is written with such depth, and when the inherent conflict exists in, it's not like Hemanth gave me an entire novella about Priya and her past or anything, but the things that he did give me were so key to how she functions, how she clicks. There were very few details maybe about her upbringing, one event here, one event there, but he was also really collaborative in the sense that we could figure out together how to join those dots. There were a couple of things in her history that were canon that he had written, but how we found that place together was a very collaborative sort of thing. So that was really exciting for me to find with him.
Rakshit, I was absolutely intrigued by something you said in one of your interviews. You said you choose your characters depending on how much they will change you.
Yeah.
So in a sense, acting is like almost a self-improvement mission.
Yeah. Very spiritual process for me at least. Yeah.
So like you're actually looking at a script and you're saying, if I play this man, it will make me a better person. It's like that?
In the sense, see, every character goes through a change.
Yeah, there's an arc. Yeah.
There's an arc for every character. And I keep questioning myself because first of all, I need to find that character inside me to play that character. And somewhere there is a balance. Little bit of Rakshit becomes Manu and little bit of Manu becomes Rakshit. And so whatever his flaw is, by the time he recovers from that flaw, and when he recovers, I would have gone through a journey as an actor. I keep saying that, the best part about being an artist is when you are performing, so you go through an emotion, but end of the day, you know that it is not your emotion. So you are detached from it, which is very spiritual for me that way. If I can adopt that in my real life, nothing like it. But if it doesn't happen, but that's the hope. That's the hope.
Yeah.
And so whatever changes are happening in the character, and what is the reason behind that change, and do I connect to it? Like as Rakshit, do I have that flaw? And can I correct myself if I have that flaw? For example,
but if you don't have the flaw, you can't do the character?
I can. I'll find the flaw. If not, for example, when I was doing Charlie, it's not that I hated dogs, but I never loved the dogs as much as how much that Dharma does. But by the end of the film, I started seeing inside me, and I started liking dogs. Not as much as him. He's a dog lover. But I have dogs now.
Right.
Otherwise, I never had.
And you changed that much?
Yeah, I did. And,
wow. So what happened with Manu? How much have you changed?
No, Manu was a complete different process. So
he changed half now.
That's right. Side B is still to come.
Yeah. No, I mean, there was a time when I was searching for all the guilt quotients in my life, because in the side B especially, Manu carries so much guilt inside him. Yeah. And I know, as soon as I get up in the morning and I look at myself in the mirror, I look like the side B Manu when I was shooting for side B. So I know somewhere I'm carrying the Manu quotient inside me, and the kind of guilt what he has in the film, that has to come across through his eyes. When he's when he's on screen. So for that to happen, I remember there are times when I noted down all the guilts I have in my life. It's noted down in the sense not on paper.
Right.
It is just that those are the times I used to meditate a lot, so I started going very deep inside me, and somehow it helped me to play the character. So I was in that process of life.
Wow.
Personally, and probably that helped me to play the character.
Wow. So I want to talk about two of the scenes which I really loved. And the first is when you break the news to Priya of what you're actually going to do. And of course, she's horrified. And Hemant, I want to ask you, why did you, like, this was such a pivotal moment, right? And it could have been anywhere. Could have been in a park, in a home, like it's a conversation that could have happened anywhere. And yet, you placed it in a place of such a crowd and, you know, that noise and the frenzy, which obviously was so much more impactful because it's sort of, in a sense, foreshadowing everything that's going to happen to them. Tell me about creating that scene.
So for me, the approach to creating that scene was actually goes back 2 beats earlier, like not 2 beats. It's just the scene preceding that, where she's sitting inside the bus and she's looking outside and there are flowers, and it's like, it looks like one of those days where you just look outside the window and the city looks beautiful, and she's humming a song. So the scene starts with him pulling music away from her. He rips apart the music from her ears and sort of takes her into this thing. So I wanted to contrast the fact that music is such an important and integral element to her personality. And I want to contrast how his decision is going to lead to chaos and noise. So I actually wanted to shoot it in a traffic jam, like with proper horns blaring and, you know, but I had, in Kavaludari, my previous film, I had shot a scene where an ambulance gets stuck in a traffic jam, and a very important character passes away. So I didn't want to repeat the traffic jam. So I was like, what else can I do to create a certain noise? And I have, like, if I'm from Bangalore, I know these places where, like, if you go to Majestic and you take that, underpass, it is like that. It is crowded, and there are people who stand there and talk. And I've always been fascinated as to what that conversation would be like. So I thought, contrasting the music and the noise is like a nice, element to the characters and where the story is going. So that's the main reason for it.
But it must have been really hard to shoot, no?
No, but that whole thing was recreated. That was,
of course, it's all managed, still to do such a pivotal scene.
For me, especially, it was the hardest scene.
For me.
Was your hardest scene?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think they shot her close up first, and I was in the suggestion, but I gave my complete self there. And when they came to my close up, I was like, I've done this like 10 times already.
I'm done now. Yeah.
So now it's a repeat, of what I've already done. So then I took a break for half an hour and I told him, I need some thing. Then later,
I think it's one of those things where, sometimes an actor just, once you do it too many times, you lose that. Sure. It was incredibly hard for both of them that day because she had to constantly be crying. And I did multiple takes, and organizing the chaos is very difficult. So she had glycerine on her face throughout, and like she cried for like the first 10-12 takes naturally. By the 12th take, I think she was dehydrated.
The machinery had just stopped working.
If it is most of the time, if it is our mistake, we can always correct it and we can repeat. But then if the background is not
lens or something.
And then we have to go for another take, then that becomes really...
And I'm very I want the junior artist also to be like, I'm slightly particular about that.
Good for you. That is how you should be. The other one is of course the moment in the prison where the other inmate says to Manu that, my wife is dying to get out of here. but your partner always looks back, and that was just such a heartbreaking small moment, but it was so beautiful. Tell me about creating that.
Also, the way he cuts to the actual that scene happening.
Yes,
there,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think when we're shooting the scene, it was not as
we shot it. I think it's one of the quickest scenes that we can, with the least number of takes. And
it was like, we were shooting one scene, then suddenly we were like, okay, let's finish that scene and come back and shoot
It was like
scene.
on the side.
Exactly.
But while writing it, it is one of the scenes that I had written from my first draft all the way back.
This was in the original.
Yeah. So from then, that was something that was very dear to me.
Yeah.
That idea of, this guy talking about how his wife is just dying to get out of here, and how your girl is not, she's reluctant to leave.
Yeah.
So that idea was always there, and it was very special, in my mind. I was waiting to shoot it.
How lovely.
But sometimes I do feel the pressure of shooting a scene like that, because it feels very special, it feels very dear. But when you're shooting, it gets over very quickly, and you're like, maybe I didn't do it this correctly.
Maybe it's not special nahi hai.
Yeah.
No, I guess that's the magic of cinema, right?
Yeah.
You just don't know what will become what and what will stick. The two of you especially, in a lot of your interviews, you've talked about creating poetry and how, like, this film is poetic. And I was just thinking, as I watched the film, of course, but also all the interviews you've done, what is the challenge of creating poetry in an environment where, frankly, all of us have very short attention spans. We are all doom scrolling on social media all day long. We are going to theaters to watch very sort of big, loud action movies. That seems to be what all of us are veering towards. And here's this film that says, no, we're going to be quiet about this. We're going to be poetic about this. We're going to just leave the silences. What is the challenge of doing that?
I know the film has a certain pace to it, and it is very particularly paced that way, because my thing is that this film can be much faster. Sure, it can. If I'm transitioning, there are several points in the film where a large part of the story happens through one cut. When she lifts her head and says, "I'm getting married," we are actually jumping 3-4 emotional states. I can, slow that further. The thing is, I haven't used those levers because I felt that there are certain things that you have to experience as an emotion, and you do run the risk of it. I always keep saying there's a sweet in Kannada, it's called Badshai. It is the kind of a sweet that if you have one bite, it is very tasty. But you have 2-3 bites, it feels like somebody slapped you, because it is so sweet. And my perpetual worry is that, are we doing that?
Correct. Is it bite 1 or bite 3?
Bite 3. So,
that's fab.
Yeah, you never know. It is a dance. You have to sort of take some chances and play safe somewhere.
Correct.
Which I have tried to do, and the audience is always a good measure of this.
Yeah.
Only after the film is out, you will sort of know from 10 different perspectives as to where it's landed. And I think it's also something that you will realize much later, like maybe 2-3 years later after the film is released, and it's not just the theatrical release of the film, that you realize, okay, is it 1 bite or 2 bites? So. But I'm very privileged to have this opportunity to make a film this way. I know not many people get that.
Absolutely. And to have a producer who's not afraid is...
he's a great filmmaker. I'm sure he'll make a good film, and that's all
makes my life I have to be that much more responsible.
That's right. Rukmini, I have to ask you, I was fascinated to read that you are a graduate of RADA, the Royal School of Dramatic Arts, which is only one of the finest acting schools in the world. And I don't think there's a lot of RADA graduates in the Indian film industry. Like, literally the only other one I know of is Raju Hirani's son, who's just finished and come back. But I always wonder, what is it like to take the teaching that you imbibe at an institution like that, where, you know, the greats have been there, the best, sort of the royalty of British acting has come out of RADA and applied to our storytelling, in which is inherently different in its DNA.
Right.
How do you do that?
Wow. Like, I never thought of it like that. It's at its very base, at the heart of it, it's all the same. It's all emotion. We're all mucking around in the same pot. But what was really fun, I think, in coming back is that I'd had a sort of general exposure. My mom's a Bharatanatyam dancer. So I'd had a sort of general exposure to, you know, the Natya Shastra and the Navarasas and that kind of thing, and the stuff that a lot of our art is rooted in. So going there and learning Stanislavski or Meisner or kitchen sink realism, all of that kind of stuff was, it's not the other end of the spectrum, it's another galaxy. But you kind of bring that back, and that way, for me, SSE was such a liberating space, because with every day of shoot, I tried something different. So there's this very simple Stanislavski exercise of 9 questions that you ask before a scene. Who am I? Where am I? What happened before? And 9 such questions. So some days of shoot, I would prep those questions for Priya and approach it that way. Some days you do Meisner, which is entirely rooted in connecting with your co-actor. So that way, this set was 2 films of like cinematic laboratory for me. You bring that, you learn obviously whatever theories they have for you, which are all rooted in a more Western kind of philosophy of acting. And that pedagogy is completely different. But as long as you have a space where you kind of get free rein, you are allowed to sort of play with it. And I learned very quickly after, I think, in the first week itself, that there was no pressure on me from Hemanth to execute it in a certain way. He'd been like that from the audition. My first audition for this film, he'd sent me the script, I prepped it. He said, okay, let's see what you have. No brief, no nothing. Which is like, okay, you must have prepped something. I had a song prepped, I was ready to tap dance if he wanted me to. But it was just, that was your space, you know, go forth. So it's nice, it gives you that kind of freedom, and you have a bunch of tools and you'll figure out
and
what
you
works
pick the
for
one.
you. So
Yeah.
for some scene, Stanislavski will work. And then for some scenes, it is woefully inadequate. You need to go back and connect with your co-actor, and asking 9 intellectual questions is not going to help you.
I hope someday you do like a really big budget, one of those, you know, full-on masala movies, and you're like, I have come with my 9
questions. Can you please answer this one?
She's already doing a few of those, I think.
What fun! You are doing a film with Vijay Sethupathi,
Yeah,
right?
it's
And are you
great
applying the
fun.
9 questions?
Oh,
there?
I am, absolutely.
Oh, lovely! I love that.
It's good fun.
And why not?
It's just another exercise, right? If
Yeah.
it helps you, why not? And if you don't need it, a big whoop. You've spent 10 minutes answering some questions. That's fine.
Rakshit, you also fascinate me, because you keep saying that every role you do should completely change the perception people have of you.
Yeah.
And that's not normally how stars work, right? Stardom is a thing. It's a thing that needs to be upheld, correct? So a lot of stars will do things that will kind of bolster that persona. But you're actively saying that with every role, you should say, oh, I didn't know he could do this, or my God, my whole perception of him has changed. How does that idea of stardom work?
It's a slow process, and probably I'll, in a sense, see, I know my next film, which is again, you know, the character when I play that character, probably
This is Richard Anthony.
Richard Anthony.
Yeah.
So he's a mass commercial character, which comes in the bracket of whatever you explain. So I'm going to come there anyways. So before that, I can try this. So I mean, I believe there should be a arc in the kind of characters you're playing to, and that can be beautiful. Like, you know, I don't know, even when I started my career, I always said that 20 years down the line, when I watch my films, I should be proud of them, and even after 20 years, those films should be valid. They shouldn't be rejected. So I think that in that perception, I'm doing a good job. So
and that's the criteria. You're not worrying about image.
I don't. Anyways, I don't care about what people think about me. So what's the point?
But that's refreshing. That's quite that's rare.
That's how I am.
No, for me, it's like the film that I have to do next without him is a big problem for me. Because to have an actor like that he's a superstar for whom the actor comes first.
Yeah.
That I think is he always likes to do something that he's not done before. Like something has to excite him as an actor. And the whole idea, the fun for him is breaking the image and trying something else. So I think that is beautiful for for any filmmaker out there.
Also, it is because of the theaters, what I did before coming into films, and few people I met there, and what thought process they had, which actually influenced me a lot. I believe that's how I started, and I mean, if you ask me, I was when I started, at least in my short films and all, if you look at me, I didn't even know what is acting. So I have learned what is acting in this process. I wanted to be an actor, and then I wanted to be a filmmaker later. Then I wanted to be a writer. So all these things I have learned in the process. I didn't come with it. I was not inbuilt with it, and I'm still learning. And I believe this process is beautiful.
And we should all be students forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Hai na? That's the beauty of it. Speaking of beauty, there's also an incredible beauty to what's happening with the Kannada film industry. It's just flourishing at another level. I can barely keep up with all the amazing stuff that's coming out of there. Do you guys have a sense of what is there a reason? Or is it just the stars are aligning and now you've just got fantastic actors and writers and storytellers and producers who are willing to risk their money? What is happening to make this sort of great flourishing happen now?
I mean, the world is seeing it now, but I think it's been building from last 10 years.
So what happened in the 10 years? Like what changed?
See, one thing, when I came to Bangalore and I wanted to be a part of Kannada film industry, I know few of the filmmakers who were there with me, who went to Tamil, who went to Bombay, because their kind of
There's
films,
not enough opportunity.
their kind of films were not being made in Kannada.
Yeah.
We used to make only commercial films. And for example, Godibana Saranamaikottu, when that film came, that kind of a film had not come in Kannada. Probably in 80s, 90s, they used to make that kind of film. But there was at least 10-15 years of gap where we completely neglected that kind of an audience. And in fact, including Rishab wanted to go to Tamil at one point. And I was like, no, we have to work here.
Really? Because he was just so disheartened by what is there?
No, probably, see, people in Bangalore or filmmakers in Bangalore, we are influenced by other language films too. Because we see that, for example, in Kerala, when they make a film in Malayalam, they try all the dialects. In Tamil Nadu, when they make a film in Tamil, they try all the dialects which is there in Tamil Nadu. Whereas in Kannada, during those days at least, only Bangalore and Mandya, Mysore, this Kannada was majorly used in films. And only, when we came there, when I came from Udupi, so I wanted to do a film from Mangalore region, from that using that dialect, and that dialect was only used for comedy sequences until then. So when we made Ulidavaru Kannante, that was the first film which came in Mangalore Udupi
language, the dialect, yeah.
But I think 10 years back, for example, Pawan Kumar, he made Lucia.
Yeah.
So many filmmakers of we all belong to the same age group.
So a certain generation came
exactly.
in, right?
So I think this generation, they didn't go to Bombay, they didn't go to Tamil like the previous generation. And
They stayed.
We stayed and we started making films.
We tried, but we did.
I mean,
You co-wrote Annadur.
Yeah. No, but like he said, I think there is a certain, in Kannada we say hata, which is stubbornness that each of us had about wanting to do it in Kannada.
Kannada, yeah.
Because for us, it's like, I don't want to leave Kannada and go to another industry and work. It's my language, it's mine. So I want to make stories because that is the language I think in, and the stories are set there, and the milieu and your identity is everything. So the story has to come from somewhere. So all of us, I think, wanted to stay back to make those films. And I think what is happening gradually, which started a while back and now is picked up a great momentum, like he said, is that the world is seeing it now. But what has been happening is that a lot of the audience who had who had been ignored, who had been taken for granted, are making it a point to make sure that they come to the theatres. They want to be part of this movement. They want to see Kannada films. They want to see their film. They want that representation of their own identities. So they see that in our stories, not just mine, his. There are many people like us. So I was very inspired when his film came out. I hadn't made my first film then. I was like, here's a guy, he's gone and made his film. Ulidaru Kandante.
Okay.
And when Pawan made his first film, it was a crowd-funded film. So for us, all of us filmmakers, he was one guy who was like, I don't need the industry to fund me. I will go, figure it out myself. So there have been like these watershed moments, here and there sprinkled across that has sort of inspired me, people like me. There are many filmmakers now. Where there were 5, there are now 50.
How lovely.
And that, I think, will keep growing. And that is how it should be.
How fantastic.
Those days, it was just one film a year. In 2013, Lucia came. 2014, Ulidaru Kandante. 2015, Rangi Taranga.
Yeah.
So it was one film a year. But
Godibanda.
2016, Godibanda. And from Pawan Kumar's team, there are 4-5, I think, assistant directors who came out. And now they have started making films like Hostel Huduguru.
Yeah.
The whole team is from Pawan Kumar's
Correct.
team.
Yeah. And Arvind Kashyap was the cinematographer of Kantara. He was AD in Pawan's team. So it's like...
So it's just spawned further.
Yeah.
How wonderful. And I love the idea of hata. That's great. Like all of us should have hata about what we want to do, right? Before I let you go, I have to, of course, ask you, what can you tell us about Side B? I know it's 10 years later. I know it's a different visual palette. Cannot wait to see it. But kuch aur?
See, the thing is that the teaser at the end of the film sort of gives a... see, usually what happens is, let me just gather my thoughts. I'm trying to make sure that I don't give out any spoilers.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that teaser that is there in the film, I have cut about like 8-9 times just to be like, is it giving out too much? Is it giving out too much? The thing is that I've grown up watching films where, it says Shubham at the end, it says the end, and I go home and I have a bunch of questions like, did they live happily ever after, or, so for me, Side B is that. Side B is what happens, when the end hits. There's a story after that, which has always fascinated me. What happens when a relationship doesn't work out? Like, how does one deal with that? How does one deal with all those feelings, especially when you're trapped in time and space? So it's like it's Manu's journey. Side B is more of Manu's journey. And it is complicated because it goes into complicated places. So yeah, it is not an out and out, revenge drama. Some people think it is, but it is not. It is a bit of everything.
How long?
But it is, I feel it is, there is a certain completion to it. There is a certain relief, I think.
I like that. I like
hopefully
that there will be some relief. Otherwise,
people
we'll
will
just be
experience.
heartbroken.
I think I've said too much already.
What can the two of you, without sharing too much?
I'm terrified of opening my mouth.
I think side A was more of Indian music and Western fusion, whereas side B is going to be rock and roll.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm sure that it's going to be a poetry for sure. I mean, it's
Yeah.
going to be another poetry.
Correct.
It has its own, like, the way side A for me was, the reason why I firstly wanted to, I was very particular about it being two parts, is because there is a certain visual treatment, there is a certain, way the story unfolds. If the side B is more plot driven, is more story driven. Side A is more character driven, and it's about them, about the emotions that they have and the silences that they have. Side B is a little, will keep you guessing, I suppose.
nice. Cannot wait. And again, thank you so much. Such a lovely film you all made.
Thank you.
And hopefully, as I keep saying, we'll exit happy out of side B.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Our
you so
pleasure.
much.
Thank you.
Okay. Is it rolling?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Shit. Sorry. Hi, we are Team Sapta Sagaradaache Ello. We are here to talk about the film.
If you like this interview,
Please like, share, and subscribe to Film Companion.
Amazing. Awesome.